I'm glad you're here at Beyond 60 Stories, where every life has a story to tell. Ladies, have you ever found yourself listening closely to a man's words, wondering what they truly mean? Not the compliments he offers easily, not the polite kindness that comes naturally, but the words he chooses when his heart is quietly involved. There is a profound difference between a man who enjoys your presence and a man who is deeply emotionally invested in you. After 60, love rarely announces itself loudly. It doesn't rush or persuade. Instead, it reveals itself through intention, through consistency, through the way a man speaks when he is no longer testing the moment, but imagining a future. In love after 60, words become less decorative and more honest. They stop trying to impress and start trying to belong. Many women I've spoken with over the years carry the same quiet question inside them. Is this real love, or am I simply filling space in his life? That uncertainty can feel unsettling, especially when you've already lived through loss, disappointment, or starting over. And yet, the answer is often closer than we think. In this reflection from Beyond 60 Stories, we'll gently explore the specific ways a man's language changes when his feelings deepen. Not dramatic declarations, but subtle phrases that reveal emotional connection, safety, and true presence. Before we go any further, if these reflections resonate with you, I invite you to gently support the channel by liking this video and subscribing to Beyond 60 Stories. Number 1. I'm on my way. Few words reveal a man's heart faster than this one quiet sentence, I'm on my way. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't sound romantic, and yet in mature love, it carries more weight than 100 beautiful promises. When a man says, I'm on my way, he is not offering comfort from a distance. He is closing the space between words and action. He is telling you, without drama, that you will not face what's hard alone. After 60, that kind of presence matters more than charm ever could. In love after 60, safety becomes the new romance. I've noticed this phrase appears at moments when it would be easier not to show up, when the weather is inconvenient, when the timing isn't ideal, when life has already been long and tiring, and yet he moves. That movement is not about heroics, it is about responsibility. It is the quiet decision that your well-being belongs to him now, at least in part. In dating after 60, many people say the right things. They send kind messages. They offer sympathy. But mature love does not stay seated when you are struggling. It stands up. It drives. It arrives. This is where emotional intelligence reveals itself, not through empathy alone, but through action that follows feeling. I'm on my way also tells you something deeper. It says he does not wait for perfect conditions to care. He does not postpone love until it is convenient. He understands that real connection lives in the imperfect, ordinary moments where showing up matters most. That is senior love advice no one teaches, but life eventually does. This is not a promise of forever. It is something more honest. It is proof of now. And when a man consistently chooses now, life has a way of quietly opening the door to what comes next, even when you weren't expecting it. Number 2. I love you. At a certain age, 3 words stop being casual. They stop being easy. I love you is no longer something said to test a reaction or soften a moment. After 60, when a man says those words, he is naming a responsibility, not chasing a feeling. In love after 60, love carries memory. It carries loss, regret, and the awareness that words can shape another person's inner world. That is why a man who loves deeply does not say "I love you" lightly. He understands that once spoken, those words ask him to show up with care, consistency, and restraint. This is not romance as performance. This is emotional intelligence in action. What many women sense but rarely hear acknowledged is this quiet distinction. A man can enjoy companionship without love. He can offer affection without commitment. But when he says "I love you" with clarity, he is also saying, "I choose how I treat your heart. I am accountable for the emotional space I create with you." In dating after 60, that difference is everything. Avoidance of these words often hides behind softer phrases, comforting phrases, safe phrases. And yet, love that never names itself often avoids the weight that comes with naming. Mature love does not hide behind ambiguity. It stands still long enough to be counted. This is where senior love advice becomes less about rules and more about awareness. Love is not proven by repetition. It is proven by the congruence between words and the life built around them. And when a man is willing to speak love aloud, he is also willing to be seen in it. Let me ask you something gently. When you hear those words in your life, do they feel grounding or unsettling? Do they bring calm or confusion? I'd love to hear how those words have shown up for you at this stage of life. Share your thoughts in the comments, because your experience carries elderly wisdom someone else may need. And as we move forward, notice how love continues to change its shape, revealing itself not just in what is said, but in what is claimed next. Number 3. You're my girlfriend or my wife. One quiet moment tells you everything you need to know. It's not a candlelit dinner or a dramatic confession. It's the moment he introduces you without hesitation and places you clearly in his life. I remember a woman I once met at a small gathering. She had been seeing a man for months, enjoying his company, his humor, his steadiness. But whenever they ran into someone he knew, the introductions were vague. "This is my friend. We know each other from church." She smiled politely, but something in her always tightened. Later, when he finally said, "This is my girlfriend," she told me it felt like stepping into daylight after standing in shade. When a man loves deeply, he does not keep you in a gray zone. He does not leave you present but unnamed. Saying "you're my girlfriend" or "my wife" is not about labels. It is about courage. It is about clarity. It is about choosing you publicly, not just privately. In love after 60, that clarity carries enormous emotional weight. I've seen the contrast, too. Another couple, both past retirement age, walked hand in hand through their neighborhood. He spoke of her naturally as "my wife," even though they had married later in life. The ease with which he said it told its own story. There was no fear of being seen, no reluctance to claim the bond, just quiet ownership rooted in respect. This is how emotional connection shows itself when love matures, not through secrecy, not through convenience, but through visibility. In dating after 60, love that stays hidden often stays unfinished. Mature love steps forward and names itself. When a man calls you his partner, he is not only telling others who you are, he is telling himself. And once spoken, that truth has a way of settling into the shape of everyday life, changing what comes next in ways you can feel even before you can explain them. Number 4. How are you feeling? Some questions are not asked to get information. They are asked to open a door. How are you feeling is one of those questions, and when it comes from a man who loves deeply, it changes the atmosphere between you. In Love After 60, this question carries a different gravity. It is no longer about checking in politely or filling silence. It is about acknowledging that you have an inner world that matters, a world shaped by decades of living, loving, losing, and learning. When a man asks how you're feeling and truly waits for the answer, he is signaling emotional intelligence at its most mature. This question tells you he is not only interested in your presence, but in your experience. He wants to understand your emotional weather, not just your daily schedule. In dating after 60, many connections remain on the surface because no one dares to step inside. This question is that step. What makes it powerful is its humility. It admits he does not already know. It shows he is willing to listen without fixing, correcting, or minimizing. That kind of listening is rare, especially later in life, when many believe they already understand people. But senior love advice often overlooks this truth. Love deepens not through answers, but through attention. When a man consistently asks how you're feeling, he is creating space rather than control. He is choosing curiosity over assumption. And over time, that space becomes safety. Safety is where emotional connection grows quietly, without force. Let me ask you something personal. When someone asks how you're feeling, do you sense genuine interest, or do you feel rushed toward a response? I'd love for you to share in the comments what that question has meant to you in your own relationships. Your reflections are part of the elderly wisdom we pass forward here. And as the conversation deepens, you may notice that some men don't stop at listening. They lean in further toward understanding in ways that reveal even more of their heart. Number 5. Why do you feel that way? Curiosity is a form of care that many people never learn. Why do you feel that way is not a challenge when it comes from a man who loves deeply. It is an invitation, and it tells you he wants to understand, not simply respond. I once watched a couple sitting across from each other at a quiet cafe. She was sharing her frustration about a family situation, her voice calm but tired. He didn't interrupt or offer advice. He leaned in and asked gently why it affected her so deeply. That single question shifted the moment. She softened. She felt seen. The conversation moved from surface explanation into emotional truth. That is where emotional intimacy begins to form. In another moment, a friend told me how surprised she felt when the man she was seeing asked that question during a disagreement. Instead of defending himself or shutting down, he wanted to understand the meaning behind her feelings. She said it made her realize he wasn't just present for the easy moments. He was invested in the difficult ones too. In Love After 60, that kind of investment is rare and precious. This question shows emotional intelligence in action. It reflects patience, curiosity, and a willingness to grow together. It signals that he values your inner reasoning, not just your emotional state. In dating after 60, many connections falter because no one slows down long enough to ask why. Deep love does slow down. Why do you feel that way is not flirtation. It is a bridge toward understanding, toward long-term connection, toward the kind of love shaped by elderly wisdom rather than impulse. It allows two inner worlds to meet without judgment. And as love matures further, that desire to understand often transforms into something even quieter and even more enduring. I'm glad you're here at Beyond 60 Stories, where every life has a story to tell. If you are a woman over 65 living alone, society has probably told you 1,000 times that you should be worried, that you should be scared, that you need someone to take care of you, that living on your own at this age is risky, lonely, or somehow wrong. I've heard those messages too, and maybe you have as well. But what if everything you've been told is wrong? What if living alone isn't your weakness at all, but your greatest strength? What if this chapter of your life is not about decline, but about clarity, independence, and quiet power? This is not about sugarcoating reality. This is about the brutal, honest truth that nobody really wants to talk about, but that many women over 65 need to hear. Living alone after 65 does not mean you are failing. In many cases, it means you have survived, learned, and earned the right to live life on your own terms. And if you find value in this conversation, please like and subscribe to Beyond 60 Stories so we can keep sharing these stories together. Now let me start with the first truth about living alone after 65 that changes everything. Number 7. We, us, our. Let's talk. Language changes when love stops standing alone. It quietly gathers a second voice. When a man begins to speak in we, something essential has already happened inside him. In Love After 60, this shift is not accidental. It signals that you have entered his inner landscape. Your presence now shapes how he thinks, plans, and responds to life. Words like we, us, and our are not habits. They are evidence of inclusion. And when he says, let's talk, he is choosing connection over escape, dialogue over distance. Mature love does not avoid difficulty. It approaches it with steadiness. The willingness to talk reflects emotional courage, not weakness. It shows a man who understands that intimacy is sustained through truth, even when truth feels uncomfortable. In dating after 60, silence is often mistaken for peace, but real peace is built through honest conversation. There is an old wisdom echoed in both Eastern philosophy and Western thought. Relationship is not the merging of two lives, but the meeting of two truths. When a man speaks in we, he is not losing himself. He is expanding his sense of self to include you. That is emotional intelligence shaped by lived experience. Choosing dialogue is also a form of respect. It acknowledges that problems are not enemies, but invitations to deepen understanding. Love that can talk is love that can last. This is elderly wisdom passed quietly from those who have learned that avoiding conflict does not protect love, but engaging it wisely can. When love no longer needs proof, it feels different in the body. You are not guessing. You are not waiting for reassurance. You are not convincing yourself to stay. You recognize the peace instead. After 60, love may arrive quietly, but it is unmistakable in the way a man speaks, in the way he shows up, and in the way he stays when life is ordinary or difficult. Real love does not rush you or confuse you, it steadies you. And if you have not yet heard all of these signs in your own life, remember this: knowing what true love looks like is the strongest way to avoid accepting something half-hearted. If this reflection resonated with you, I invite you to gently support Beyond 60 Stories by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your presence here helps keep these conversations alive. Until next time, take good care of your heart.